Kazuma and I traversed the mountain path, walking past the dense rows of trees stretching as far as the eye could see. At long last, we reached the milestone, passing beside the most precipitous mountain in the country, Hakone. This was a positive sign, as Edo wasn't too far away. As we tried passing the Seki show, however... Hold on a minute. A voice suddenly called out to us from behind. This voice belonged to... Oh, yay! Alright. Our first of the other demon boys. That's great. Omagiri! What are you doing here?
I am en route to deliver a confidential letter on behalf of the Satsuma to a certain other domain. What a coincidence to run into the two of you on my way there. You would do best to ignore the Satsuma's orders. Consider the current balance of power. They no longer need us to serve as couriers to help their meaningless cause. I had a feeling you'd have a snarky remark. I am here of my own volition. I figured there'd to be no need to cast the Satsuma aside just yet. Suit yourself, fool. Well, the two of you have made excellent time to Edo, but... just how do you plan on passing through the Seki show over there?
Huh? Well... Kazuma was taking the lead so decisively that I had never stopped to think there would ever be an issue. I glanced over at him worryingly, but he seemed unfazed, answering Omagiri with a deadpan delivery. I'm ready for it.
I have a pass. It should work, no problem. I hate to be presumptive, but... things have changed quite a bit since when we were given those passes. Since those passes are valid under the condition that we serve the Satsuma, and not the Shogunate, I am certain that if you present your pass, they will stop you at the Sekisho to verify your identities. What makes things complicated for you, however, is the suggestion that you no longer serve the Satsuma. Enough of your riddles, you imp. Why don't you just say whatever it is that you're getting at?
Calling Omagiri an imp, dang.
I recommend that the two of you find another path. Perhaps something more remote to sneak into Edo.
Kazuma leered at Omagiri irritably, visibly annoyed by his suggestion.
Another path? Are you seriously expecting the two of us to discover a more suitable path to enter Edo around Hakone? Hey, I'm just trying to give you some advice. Wouldn't want there to be any trouble for you. In case you weren't aware, the Shogunate lost the Battle of Tobafushimi. I doubt there will be issues. Surely the Satsuma would think twice before questioning my allegiance. You underestimate the humans. Just because the Supreme Commander was so willing to abdicate his position in the heat of battle, does not mean that all humans are pushovers. They will not be so understanding to your plea. Damn you, Omagiri! Where do you get the gall to speak to me so audaciously?
Kazuma was fuming, and his voice only became louder with each smug reputation given by Omagiri. Oh no. If they continued to bicker publicly, then the soldiers stationed at the Sekisho would surely notice. I must find a way to calm down Kazuma somehow. I feel like saying you're the head of a demon clan would be like, yeah, I'm in charge, therefore everybody listen to me, okay? But at the same time, like, is Dad here? I mean, he might be here. He was working with them. So if there might be a record of us coming through here if he's not here anyway? I'll try this. I just feel like if I do the other one, he's just gonna be like, I'm in charge then. If the two of us have trouble entering the city, then it may arouse the suspicion of both my father and my brother to our plans. Although the trip may take a little bit longer, we should probably look for another route. Kazuma's lips pursed momentarily, carefully thinking over what I had said. Ah, he liked it. Alright, we're thinking here.
You make a good point. We wouldn't want either of them to raise any suspicions. Very well. If you feel up to the challenge, then finding another way won't be too difficult. I don't care how taxing the trail is, though. You'd better not bitch at all, got it?
Yes, I understand. Kazuma has no patience. Oh my goodness.
Well, I will be on my way now. Do be careful.
Amigiri bowed respectfully. Without another word, he spun on his heel and vanished into the desolate wintry forest. Thanks, Amigiri. Love you. Kazuma and I nodded at one another, walking away from the Sekisho towards an uphill trail that was far from the well-trodden path.
Already out of breath, are you? See, I told you this would be too much for you.
No, I'm fine. The steep inclines around Hakone were dotted with wide, thick boulders, which made our grueling hike even more laborious. A billow of thick mist stretched all around me, obscuring my sense of direction. Just then... Ah! My foot slipped upon a loose, wet rock, and I just nearly tumbled off the cliff into the valley. Chizuru, no! Stop! You're too dangerous around cliffs. Alright, come on, give me those demon-fast reflexes, man. When a hand grabbed a hold of me. I tried to shake off my horror upon seeing Kazuma on the edge of the cliff as I held onto him for dear life.
Are you alright?
Oh. In one swift, forceful movement, he yanked me back up onto the trail. I was silent for a moment, steeling my nerves from that near-death experience. The thought of Kazuma rescuing me stood at odds with the initial impression I'd had of him as a crude, sadistic warrior who hated the Shinsengumi. Dude literally saved you from a horde of Furies, Imperials, and dad and sister brother at the end of the last game. I think you can trust him to stop you from rolling down a cliff. I think. Okay. Although this wasn't the first time he had saved me, it was something to which I'd needed to become accustomed. I guess he did try to kidnap you more than he's tried to save you so far, so he's catching up, though.
Why aren't you answering me? Are you injured?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Let's continue.
Kazuma spun around to continue trudging through the trail, keeping my hand tightly clasped in his. Aww. Oh, we get a picture of it too? Stop, my heart. I'm gonna keep a hold on you. You gotta hold on to this girl in the cliffs, man. Kazuma, what are you doing?
What are you on about now?
You're still, holding my hand. Oh! Kazuma forcibly yanked my hand as he marched forward. Look, he read it in a book somewhere that sometimes, you should hold hands.
A mountain trail is no place for a woman to hike through alone. Stick close to me, understand?
Okay. Thank you. I was slightly embarrassed by Kazuma's suggestion, but I did as I was told and wove his fingers into mine. Aw. His hands were surprisingly warm and comforting, despite his grasp being so firm. I like to imagine that there was no problem going through the Sekisho, but Amigiri's like, you need more time with this girl. How about a romantic hike through the cliffs? Kazuma's like, this is a terrible idea. But it worked out in the end. I almost forgot that they belonged to someone who could easily slit my throat at any given moment. Yeah. Suddenly, I remembered the question that I wished to ask him earlier, and I tugged at him slightly. Hey. Kazuma?
What is it now?
Were you trying to pass through the Seki show for my sake earlier? Initially, Kazuma had no response, instead choosing to glare at me from the corner of his eye, but...
Female demons are different than male demons. Although your wounds can regenerate, your stamina is just as meek as any normal humans would be.
Oh, that's good to know.
Therefore, the female demons are often left behind in our villages under the watchful protection of the males who ensure their survival.
According to what Kazuma was telling me, the natural instinct for male demons was to guard the well-being and safety of their women. Kazuma would rarely mince words, but his comment offered me a unique insight that explained so much of his behavior. In a way, it reminded me of the Shinsengumi's imperative to keep me safe.
This laborious journey will be over soon enough. Be patient and keep holding my hand.
Okay, I will. Whee! Prior to this, I don't think anyone could have convinced me that I would be willingly crossing Hakone hand in hand with Kazuma. But as soon as we get to the other side of this mountain, we will arrive in Edo. Were the stories true? Would Father truly be able to orchestrate a war with his army of furies in Edo? Would we continue to hold hands as we walked into Edo? I anxiously awaited the future, worrying myself about whether or not I could stop him in time. That was so freaking cute. Cosmo's so awkward, I love it. This has like no concept. Oh, it's funny. That's the end of chapter 1 already. Oh no. It's going too fast. I want more. Slow down. Okay, before we begin, let's take a look. Alright. We held hands, so we got that budding going on. By the end of our brutal hike through Hakone's unforgiving mountain ridge, we arrived in Edo safely, though my feet were ready to fall off. It was a stroke of good fortune that neither Father nor Kaoru had seemed to hear of our presence. My first order of business was reuniting with the Shinsengumi after weeks of separation, and so I set off in search of their headquarters, but the headquarters were vacant, as all of the soldiers had seemingly embarked on a campaign for their next battle. Okay, so we're too late. Did they take the Furies with them this time?
The Shinsengumi are heading to Kofu.
Yes, or at least that's what Dr. Matsumoto told me. I had also discovered that the Shinsengumi renamed themselves as the Koyo Regulatory Company. They were honorably tasked with protecting the territory surrounding Kofu Castle, so they mobilized their troops and marched for Kofu immediately.
How unbelievably foolish of them. Their lives were graciously spared in Tobafushimi, and now they're just as eager to throw them away.
What? They're not being foolish.
Do tell, girl. How else should they be described? Yoshinobu Takagawa shamefully entered a self-imposed exile and locked himself in a temple to avoid any blame. Here they are, trying to leap back into the fray only weeks after their humiliating loss. But why? Neither the Takagawa affiliate daimyo nor the Hideyoshi daimyo want anything to do with them. It is a hopeless endeavor. Defeat is guaranteed.
I wasn't sure if I was misinterpreting him, but was Kazuma expressing concern over the well-being of the Shinsengumi? I'm in no position to judge whether or not they're making a wise choice, but I don't think they're the type of people to get hung up on the likelihoods of winning and losing. In my experience, the Shinsengumi warriors were more interested in never having to compromise on their strict set of standards. It was a lifestyle that was beyond my scope of understanding since I wasn't actually a warrior. All of them adhere to their principles foremost, and this is an example of that, I am certain. Kazuma glanced at me from the corner of his eye, raising his eyebrow irritably to my suggestion. Just looking at him made me shiver nervously, and I noted to myself how strange it felt to interact with someone so unapologetically cold.
Adhere to their principles, eh? Open your eyes. They rely more on instinct than logic. What makes them any different to an injured beast lashing out?
Injured beast? Kazuma dismissed the Shinsengumi to a degree that I could only describe as willful ignorance. I had never met anyone so incapable of empathy. It escaped me how Kazuma could mistake their sense of conviction as a desperate show of self-defense. However, as much as I'd wanted to argue, I chose not to say anything. Just as much as Kazuma had been basing his remarks on assumptions, I realized that I could just as easily be committing the same sin. In essence, there wasn't much of a point to arguing how other people decided to live their life.
Forget about the Shinsengumi. I couldn't care less at the moment. Have you been able to ascertain the whereabouts of Kodo and Kaoru Nagamo, though?
Unfortunately, no. I worked as hard as I could to get concrete details from both Dr. Matsumoto as well as some of my father's old colleagues, but none of them seemed to have any clue about where the two of them could be.
If they are as adamant as they claim about going through with the Tobaku, then Edo will soon descend into chaos.
A formally staged coup to oust the shogunate from power. Feeding Father's army of furies would require a gratuitous amount of blood, which could cost the city thousands of innocent lives. I must find a way to stop Father's plot before there's any chance of putting Edo's citizens at risk. As I embraced this resolve to defeat Father in my heart, Kazuma spoke unexpectedly.
Whatever. I will see to it that the both of them are eradicated, as well as their disgusting army of fakes. Why don't you consider staying with the Matsumoto man you mentioned earlier? Or even stay at the Shinsengumi's headquarters?
Huh? Kazuma's question blindsided me, and it begged clarification. What are you talking about? I can deal with my father and brother myself.
My agreement with Yase's demon princess was that I would escort you to Edo. Nothing more, nothing less. The deal never included a guarantee to dispose of Kodo or Kaoru Nagamo.
But the entire reason we returned to Edo was to stop them.
How delusional can you be if you think they will entertain any of your asinine opinions?
Kazuma raised a good point, and I thought back to what happened during the Battle of Toba-Fushimi. Nothing I said could have gotten through to either of them, which had been rather deflating. In spite of that encounter, I asked Kazuma a question. Kazuma, do you honestly plan on killing my father and brother? I may as well have been speaking to a ghost, as my question hovered awkwardly without an answer. His silence was telling. He refused to look me in the eye, choosing instead to stare blankly at the passers-by.
It is only a matter of time, I assume, until they expand their army of fakes. Do not go near them. To them, you are nothing more than a bothersome fly. Got it?
He spoke in a hushed tone. Oh. Without another word, Kazuma vanished into the crowd of people bustling down Edo streets. I wish this boy would learn to communicate. I realized too late that I hadn't properly thanked Kazuma for safely escorting me back to Edo. It was a far cry from how I had originally been acquainted with him. That is, as a thorn in the Shinsengumi's side. For all intents and purposes, our arrangement was over. This was not an issue for me, but what else was there for me to do at this point? To prevent the terrifying expansion of Father's army of furies, Kazuma only had one option. Finding Father and Kaoru, then killing them. I must do everything in my power to stop him. No. No, you must join him in this endeavor. Watch this be the one where both father and sister brother have like a massive redemption arc. Which I would be okay with, actually. After gathering my bearings in Edo, I decided on the one place that I could still visit unannounced. It was my childhood home, which had been left unattended for however long I had been gone. Part of me clung to the naive hope that father would be there, waiting for me, but the yard was long overgrown, filled with weeds peeking through the cracked stone path. As I stepped inside, the tatami mat was coated in a thick layer of dust, giving me the impression that few others had visited since my departure. Just where could father be? During our last conversation, he seemed set on building momentum with his army of Furies, toppling the shogunate and increasing his notoriety, but was that what he really wanted to do? The answer might surprise you. A wave of nostalgia hit me as I entered my bedroom, which was untouched since I'd last seen it. I recalled the memory of father using this room to treat patients long before it was a suitable bedroom.
You appear to have contracted food poisoning. I have something I can prescribe, but be sure to stay hydrated. What's that? You don't have any money. Not to worry. Please, feel free to repay me whenever you get the chance. Chizuru, would you mind fetching me some of the stomach medicine from the storage room?
Father treated every patient with intense care, regardless of their income status or how severe their illness was. He was remarkably kind, giving a personalized touch to each of his patients without expecting anything in return. He was a cherished, well-respected member of our community. Surely, all of this had to be a misunderstanding. Originally, father's impetus for creating the Water of Life was for giving the shogunate a shot in thwarting the Empire of Japan from forming. It proved to be a shallow pursuit in hindsight, and his egotism birthed what was, arguably, one of the most heinous creatures to ever live. I grew angry thinking about it when I heard the front door creak as it slid open. Uh-oh. Who could it be? Was it... I froze out of panic, slowly turning my head over my shoulder to sneak a quick peek. It's Dad. Oh no!
Is someone here?
His voice was unmistakable. Father. I called out to him shakily in response, and from the corner of my eye I watched the silhouette slink towards me quietly.
Chizuru. You have returned to Edo as well, eh? It brings me joy to see you safe and sound. I worry that you might have gotten swept up in the battle, or worse.
I could see tiny tears forming behind Father's wide, light brown eyes. Oh boy. It was an expression with which I had been intimately familiar. I almost convinced myself that our last conversation took place in a nightmare rather than in reality. However, I knew better than for it to be true. Where's Kaoru? Has he not joined you?
Indeed. I have ordered him to complete another assignment.
I flicked my eyes back and forth, trying to sense if any Furies were nearby, but I couldn't. This may be my only opportunity to speak candidly with Father, and perhaps even convince him. Father, answer me something. Do you really plan on creating more Furies as a way of manipulating the Imperial Army?
Chizuru.
That can't be what you really want, is it? Father, didn't you dedicate your life to becoming a doctor in order to save innocent people from dying? When I was a child, my memory of Father was of his incredible work ethic, how he'd pour himself into books on Western studies and medicine. He invested himself in his patients. I remember peeking into his room one night as he flipped through his books with only a lantern as company. There was no way that level of dedication could have faded so easily.
Right. Unlike you, my child, I am not a direct descendant of the Yukimura clan. My family's blood has been long since diluted, making me closer to human than demon. As a child, my life nearly succumbed to a severe illness. This is what motivated me to put forth all of my energy into practicing Western medicine. It was a desperate wish to save those who suffered like me.
Surgical and treatment procedures adopted from European practice introduced to Japan from Dutch texts. Well, that's an interesting bit of Dad's backstory. Father, so... It was just as I expected. Father still possessed an innate desire to care for others. My joy was short-lived as Father continued. There's that face.
But the funny thing is, Chizuru, that no matter how much medicine evolves, humans are twice as efficient at creating tools of destruction, and in my experience, are more eager to test them on their fellow man than to help him. If this vicious cycle continues, then all that will remain are poor, lonely orphans like you and Kaoru. I cannot in good conscience allow these imbeciles to run this country into the ground so petulantly.
The mood in the room suddenly shifted. I gazed in horror as Father's body began to radiate a blinding aura as if he was being engulfed in flames. Out of reflex, I cupped my hands over my mouth. Oh, you're just gonna transform for her, eh? Interesting. Father? Two sharp horns started poking through the flesh on his forehead, akin to some kind of beast that I had only seen in a woodblock print. His eyes were slowly changing to gold, nearly paralyzing me with their bright, ominous glow. What's going on?
Witness the demon's true form, Chizuru.
Demon's true form?
As demons interbred with humans, our people distance themselves from reaching their full potential, and I was resigned to suffering the same fate. Thanks to my serum, however, the precious water of life, my demon blood has been reawakened from its dormancy after years of suppression.
So, you've drunk the water of life?
Exactly.
Words failed me. It was a nightmare scenario, and suddenly whatever delusions I'd had about expecting to compromise with my father were abandoned. Not only had Father been creating Furies, but now he himself was a Fury as well. How recently he had consumed that vile serum was a mystery to me, but it was clear that the man who raised me was gone, and in his stead a monster.
Between myself and Kaoru, who has also discovered the means of unlocking his true demonic potential, and an army of Furies unencumbered by sunlight, no one can oppose us. With this serum at our disposal, mankind will cower and learn how futile waging a war against our people would be.
No! I shook with disbelief, crying frantically at my father as the realization of his crimes was sinking in. My time with the Shinsengumi granted me lessons upon which I otherwise had no perspective. When working in such a close capacity with people from different walks of life, one understands that getting your way is challenging. Compromise is key. For the Shinsengumi, having the Furies made this particularly difficult. For Father, however, without anyone to challenge him, there was no one to inform him of what an egregious sin he had committed against humanity. Father, please, snap out of this! Do you truly believe that you will be able to easily curry favor with the Imperial Army and eventually usurp power in the process? Even the Shinsengumi, as strong proponents of the shogunate, were at the mercy of bureaucracy, which only served to frustrate and disenfranchise them. It was hard to believe Father and Kaoru would be capable of avoiding the same issue.
If you think the Imperial Army is sitting in any position to exploit and dispense us, then you are mistaken. It is they who should be afraid of us annihilating every last one of them. In fact, we certainly have the means to do so.
What? Father's golden eyes beamed with an electrifying, almost unrecognizable madness.
Now, come with us. As a pure-blooded demon, by mating with the Furies, we can guarantee your offspring will be even stronger. If that were to happen, our clan, the Yukimura clan, will give birth to a new generation of demons. The world will take notice of our people when we exact revenge on the demons who abandon us in our time of need, crushing them with impunity.
Father wore a malicious smirk as he extended his hand out towards me. Ah! I desperately searched for an escape route, but Father moved with a heightened agility, grabbing my arm before I could even hit the ground running. Stop! Let go of me! I tried swatting Father's hand away, just as the panic began to set in. That's my boy! I knew you were gonna be around!
Shut your mouth, you imbecile. Illuminate me. How do you expect to rally your people and form a new clan if you are nothing more than a bitter, senile idiot?
That voice! It can't be! Oh, yes it could. Cosmo, what are you doing here? I almost needed to pinch myself to believe that it was truly him, but he made no secret out of his irritation when he glared at me from the corner of his eye. Yep, it's him.
Could ask you the same question. I thought I'd ordered you to stay low and out of their detection, yet here you are, girl. Care to tell me what you think you're doing?
Well, I couldn't think of an answer off the top of my head, and so Cosmo dismissed me, shifting his angered gaze towards Father.
Not only have you committed the ultimate crime in producing more fakes, but now you've stooped low enough to become one of them. It appears as though you're practically begging me to stick this sword in your gut, aren't you?
Cosmo spat out in a low, bitter tone. He reached over to his katana and unsheathed it, ready to strike as he dug his heels into the tatami mat below. Something about his katana, though, intrigued me. Rather than reflect light in the room, as a katana normally would, it produced its own shimmering gleam, giving it an ethereal, blessed quality.
Drink all the serum you wish, Koto, but never in your wildest dreams will you be capable of measuring up to what a true warrior can be.
Gah! Father let out a yelp from frustration, partly out of embarrassment to Cosmo's mockery, but mostly in the knowledge that he was no warrior. After a moment... Ah! Father grabbed a hold of my arm and shoved me where Cosmo had been standing. I braced myself to hit the floor, thinking Cosmo would sidestep to avoid me and charge at Father. Or so I thought. Instead, Cosmo caught me flying towards him, wrapping his arm securely around me as I landed. I mean, I appreciate it, man, but you could have just stopped him right now. I've fallen onto the floor many times. But thank you. Huh? 5 seconds ago, I expected to fall face first as I plummeted to the ground, but now this. Father, seizing this ample opportunity, bolted toward the house's back door. Ah!
Koto, wait!
Cosmo chased after him, but... Whoops.
He got away, huh? Should have guessed that rat would slip from my fingers.
Father had disappeared, successfully evading Cosmo's brief pursuit. As Cosmo darted his stern eyes at me, I cowered in the corner. Thank you for saving me earlier. I bowed my head politely, but he raised the corner of his lip flippantly.
Your thanks are unnecessary. Instead, I demand your answer to my earlier question. I told you not to go near them nor to pursue them. Why have you disobeyed me?
How should I answer? You're not the boss of me. I mean, saying I wanted to help is like, well, obviously, and, well, you didn't help at all, but it involves her. You can't just, like, be like, you are dismissed, walk out into the street mist and disappear. You can't stop Chizuru from taking charge here. Ah, she's doing the whole... I am the head of the Yukimura clan. Because I am a member of the Yukimura clan. If my father and brother are plotting to commit these heinous crimes, then I can't let the burden fall on you to take care of everything, Kazuma.
Were you not listening to what I had told you earlier, girl? Female demons pale in comparison to what their male counterparts can do in battle. Your presence benefits me none whatsoever.
I get that, but... if you were in my shoes, Kazuma, would you listen to yourself? Could you honestly live with passing on your burden to someone else? Ooh, she got him. She got him. My question seemingly caught Kazuma off guard. He gazed at me inquisitively, and together we were silent as the wind rustled branches outside. After a long, awkward pause... yeah...
Understood. Perhaps I'm being forward, but I see in you the virtues befitting the leader of the Yukimura clan.
Dang. Highest amount of praise we've ever gotten from this guy.
All I ask, however, is that you refrain from acting so recklessly. Do not allow these rash thoughts to cloud your judgment, or else your leadership will suffer.
Okay. I understand.
Anyone who even thinks of abducting you under my watch will be punished without mercy. Come with me. You will feel better watching me peel the flesh from their bones with the swing of my sword.
And the moment's gone. A for effort. Still gotta work on the sweet talk a little bit. Kazuma spoke indifferently, turning around to head back into town. The thought of him promising to murder father and Kaoru still unsettled me, but... I suppose it was far better than being left in the dark without any clue of where father could be or what he had been hoping to achieve. I scurried right behind Kazuma as we left my house behind.